All right, guys, welcome back. So, on today's episode, I have my friend Jen here from White Elephant Restaurant, all the way, or food truck, I should say.
Food truck.
Food truck, White Elephant Food Truck, all the way from Portland. And, right?
Portland, Oregon, yep.
Okay. Portland, Oregon, which, see, I just don't know because I've never been to the West Coast, so I'm just like, everything all West, all the same to me, but I'll probably. So I'm excited to have you on the channel. I know like we've been kind of in contact with the last few months. I've had your sauces, which totally amazing, and I love them also. Thank you for that. Really addicting. The one, I think it was like the chow sum. Oh my god, I just like literally could just drink the entire thing. Was
Oh yeah. It's easy to get attached to.
yeah. So if you guys haven't tried any of her sauces, I think are you still selling them via online? Okay.
Yeah, online,
so direct any questions or orders into her IG here. And the other big reason why I wanted to have Jen on the channel is because recently she got her US citizenship. So that's so exciting. I always get super excited when I see other people, get their US citizenship because I also too got mine back in 2009. And it's easy for some people, but it's not easy for a lot of people. So do you want to talk about, why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about White Elephant, and then we'll deep dive into US citizenship process.
Sounds good. So I'm Jen. I go by Genuinely Me on my Instagram, and I also own and operate White Elephant Asian Fusion with my husband, and we also have a couple family members that we employ. It's a food truck. Well, in Oregon, we call them food carts because they're stationary. They don't move anywhere. They're not mobile.
Okay.
But food carts, food trucks, same thing. I mean, it's same but different, So, and we've been operating it for about 4.5 years now. So my husband and I both left our corporate careers to pursue our passion full time. Little scary, especially with the unknown, but it's worked out. It's worked out tremendously, and we're very, very thankful for everyone's love and support locally, online, all of our social media people. I mean, through just coming to visit when they're in town or ordering our sauces, like you were saying earlier. It's been amazing, and we didn't expect the projection of it to go as quick as it did, and we're just very thankful for everything. So anyway, so I'm an entrepreneur. It's been in my blood since I grew up in a commercial kitchen, so it's really nothing new to me per se, but definitely when you're doing it for yourself, it's a total different ball game. Different kind of stresses, but good stress, I say. But anyway, and like you said, very recently I became a US citizen. So all this time in America, I came here when I was 2 months with my family. We migrated here. I was born in a refugee camp in Thailand, and then we got sponsored here, Oregon all my life. And then eventually my mom and my grandma, so they got their citizenships early on. We didn't realize the importance of obtaining a citizenship, your rights that you have. Now I actually have the right to vote in this upcoming election that I'm very excited about. Yay! Go out there, register to vote, everyone, and make sure you do vote when you register. It's very important. This is a very monumental election coming up, so do that. But other things, I've always was told through my family in our culture, it's easier. We have a citizenship, to travel, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I honestly don't know what it took me so long to do it. I just decided, I'm an adult now. I mean, I've been an adult, but just get on it. I mean, there's so much more that I'm able to do once I became a citizen, so, but the process with everything going on, I will tell you, is a long process, because I feel like almost everyone is getting their citizenship these days because of what's been going on and whatnot. So if you can get started, I would recommend getting started as soon as you can, because it's a wait for them to even get your application, process it. You know what I mean? So I mean, how long was your process when you did yours?
To kind of give it context as well, I think like you mentioned, and I want to say we're probably similar age range. I also came here when I was 4 months old, and I didn't understand or not really get to know the importance, but because I want to say my last green card was renewed in 99, and I remember my dad took me whatever, and I think my brother got his I think in 2001. So I remember he said, make sure you do it because every new president is going to cost a lot. The money's going to go up. So I think his at the time was 300, and I want to say mine in 2009 was 600, and yours was how much?
It's like 780 now, and there's a rumor that it's going up again into the thousands. So it's not very affordable. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're in a position where you can do it, because it only increases. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen them decrease the price. You know, so.
Yeah, so the process wasn't bad for me. I know you mentioned yours took a little while. Like my application process, it seemed pretty fast. Now I got a little nervous because my friend, she's Guatemalan, and she says like right after they processed their applications right before 9/11. 9/11 happened. It took them like 4 years to get their application processed. It was a long time. So I was like, oh my God. So she's like, girl, if you're gonna do it, do it now. So it was probably within a year that I got everything together, and then you have your interview and all that stuff set up. This was in Chicago too, so I was like, okay, so, yeah. I really did this in New Hampshire, so it was a smaller state, probably less craziness, whatever. I know in my mind, I can vision the same location, but they were more intense than we were in Chicago. They make you take off everything, fingerprint, all this stuff. I'm like, dang, it's ain't nobody here in New Hampshire, just us.
Come on, I got nothing in my bag, but maybe a Snickers.
Yeah, right. And I went to the Chicago processing center. They're like, you can come through, and I was like, okay, I don't need to take off my. Okay, got it.
I'm cool.
Yeah, maybe things have changed now, but it was a fast process for me, and I would say probably a year. And yours was how long?
Mine was just a little over a year because of the pandemic. So I had already started the process back in I think it was May. If I looked at my records, March or May, one of those two of 2019. And then by the time I got the letter saying, hey, we received your application, everything looks good, we're going to have you come in for your biometrics, which are your fingerprints, and take your picture. That was I want to say close to November. So, that long. And then after I got my fingerprints done, it probably was a couple months later where they said, okay, here's your interview date and whatnot. That was in January of this year. So January 13th, I remember the exact day of this year. And I went in, took my test. I will give you the advice of study, people, because the things that I feel that I was very fortunate because I grew up here, and some of the stuff that was on the test we were taught in school, right?
Exactly.
What the stars are, what the stripes are, the flag, and that kind of stuff. But if you're new to the country, you may not know that, and that's totally fine. But I just recommend you studying because there's 100 questions they could ask you, right? But you have to get 6 of those questions right. 6 out of 10 considered passing. Yep. So if you think about it, that's a D, right? I mean,
I know, but you don't know what they're going to ask you either. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know. It's super random, right? Out of the 100 questions. And I'm like, and it's with technology these days. There's an app that you could download. If you request a CD, they'll give you a CD that you could listen to, on your drive to work, from work. And it just, that way, is embedded in your head. But for someone like us, you and I, who have grown up here, there were some questions I was even stumped on, oh, I didn't even know this, or maybe I did learn it and I just kind of forgot about it, but it's very important to study because I've heard of folks that have also didn't fail or didn't pass the first time. And they had to go back, and then it's a waiting period, and that could take a while. And I don't know situations where I mean there could have been where people don't pass at all, and they're just kind of they give up, which I would hate for them to do because it's a process to get to. But anyway, I do recommend studying. While I was waiting to get called for my interview, I was on my app, waiting in the waiting room of immigration, studying the questions just to refresh my memory, Gosh. Yeah, so it's intense, but that's how I study anyway. I just that's how I keep things retained but you can't imagine, not everyone knows technology, right? Let's just say our older generation, they're not going to know how to go in and do things. And that's why the ones that our older generation that have passed, I'm so proud of them, man, English is literally your second language. Although it's ours, but we grew up here, and they pass. Like, props to you. They're not easy questions. So
maybe this was my experience. So I've been to the one in New Hampshire. I'm getting my green card there, and I went to the one in Chicago. Would you say it's kind of, the vibe is kind of like the DMV? Like, everybody is just like rude and nasty, and I don't know if like that's like the way they're supposed to be. But I'm like, dang, like you didn't even give the lady a chance, because they're like calling out names and they're butchering these names. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I feel bad for like everybody in this room. And I remember like on my way to work, like I told you know, my job, I'm like, I'm on my way in the morning. I'm gonna stop, do my interview, and then head to work. So I literally was like fully like dressed like to go to work. And I was like terrified because of the way that they were treating everybody in the waiting room. So,
sorry, little accident. Technical difficulties.
Too many drinks at the beach, you guys.
This is really water, okay?
Oh my God. Straight up vodka, you guys. Oh my God. Yeah, and
but like you said, yeah, it's like I don't know how to explain it. I want to say it in a very PC way, but you're right. It's like the DMV, but I almost feel like the attitude towards immigrants is almost worse, because they're not. So I've been in cases where like they weren't kind, and luckily we understand English, but not everyone does. These people are new to the country, right? And I feel like, I don't know, I mean, maybe we could make this change or suggestion, but if you're going to work in environments like immigration or that, you have to have some empathy and compassion, because you're dealing with people that don't know your country, that don't know your language, right? And they're trying their best. But yeah, to be like our names, right? My name, I mean, you have a Cambodian name, which is you probably the one of the more easier to pronounce than like Thai or Laotian, because we have like every letter in the alphabet in our names, right? So but yeah, I mean, I feel bad, and it's kind of like, I almost feel like, are you looking down on us because we're immigrants, you know?
I know. Yeah, and it was like the lady who checked me in was like rude. I was like, all right, it's gonna start off like this, but
woosah.
Woosah, I'm on my way to work. She's not gonna set me off.
Yeah, exactly.
But there was can we shift to the interview process, like, and maybe your experience there, because mine, like, it was like straight up, I thought it was like the movie The Proposal all over again. Remember that movie when they was like grilling Ryan McReynolds and the girl?
It's like an interrogation.
Yeah, and I was like, but I really it wasn't me. I felt bad for the dude down the hallway, because he was grilling. Well, I called you on this date, and you didn't answer. Were you at the house? Like, where did you go? I was like, oh my God.
You're like shaking for him.
Yeah, I was like, let me just focus on me. But I had a really, really nice lady. I really did. And I also, like I said, I was dressed for work. I was like in uniform for my job. It wasn't the MTA, don't worry. It was a let's just say volunteer service organization. So they knew who I was. So I was all like, oh Lord, let me just get through this. And they asked simple questions. I think because she knew I spoke English. And, you know, she asked like what I did, and, you know, I think she knew of the organization that I worked for. And she was like, she asked the first question, which is, who was the first president? For us, easy. I hope some people don't know that, but I would say for me, George Washington. She only asked me 3 questions. You know that?
Really?
Yeah. It was like, I could be like, I remember it was really short. And so she asked, and then she had me write like a sentence. She was like, okay, I think so she was trying to get to lunch, so I get it.
Which is like the timing for you, though. You're like, oh yeah.
I know. So I'm like, oh yeah, girl, me too. But it was like quick. She asked me that, and then she just asked like where I was born, and then the one question that almost like she like left the room. I'll tell you like this is what happened. And she goes, what is the country, or what is your birth or citizenship? Like, what is your birthplace or whatever? Or like, what is your former citizenship prior to, you know, becoming a US citizen? Now, follow along. I was also born in a refugee camp in the Philippines. In my mind, I am a Filipino resident. Now, I don't know if this happened to you too,
Girl, yep. I follow you.
So there's a stack of papers this high. Like, I'm sure my life, all the records of everything in national treasures, whatever, it's like right there. And so she's reading. She's like, "What is your place of citizenship?" And I said, "The Philippines." And she just goes, "I'm gonna ask you again. What is the?" And I'm like, is this lady like messing around with me?
Am I getting punked?
Yeah. What is your place of citizenship? And I said, "The Philippines." It was a refugee camp. And so she goes, "I'm sorry, I cannot move forward with your application." And I was like,
were you freaking out at that point?
I was freaking out because in my mind, like, sorry for my language, but like, bitch, that was like fucking $600 something that my dad like gave to me to fucking process.
Oh yeah, and they don't refund you, so
right. So I was like, so this is me and the lady. I was like, "Miss, like, I'm on my way to work. Like, you know, I'm a good person, and you know where I'm going to like volunteer today." And I was like, "That's all I've known." And so she's like, "I'll be right back." I'm like, "Oh hell, they gonna come back."
So but you're sweating this whole time, right? You're like, oh,
yes, I am.
5 minutes felt like 5 hours.
I know. And again, mind you, the guy down the hallway is still getting grilled. I don't know. He's like, "Where were you when I called you?" I was like, "Oh no,
they're gonna drag me out.
They're gonna drag me out." So she comes back. She's like, "Because I need to go speak to my my mentor, my boss, or something." You know. Mm-hmm. So she comes back, and so she hands me the file and says, like, it says your citizenship is Cambodia. So whoever did your paperwork said that you are a Cambodian citizen. So in my mind, I'm like, how? I haven't even touched land. I was birthed in the Philippines. So he's like, "Well, I'm not sure." And so I guess long story short, I called my dad. I was like, "I need to call my dad. This is my dad." I'm like, "Fine." They said that I'm not like, I'm from Cambodia, and what am I supposed to say? Like I'm like one step like getting through this process.
This is what's stopping me.
So this is my dad. "Tell them whatever they need to hear."
You know what? Good advice, though. It's true.
And so I was like, "You're not helping." That was a flip phone at the end of the day. It was like, "Poop, bye." And I was like, so luckily she's like, "Okay, I talked to my boss. I think, you know, because of the situation that you were in, we can process all that stuff." I was like, praise the Lord.
There are good people there.
There are good people. I don't remember her name, but she was a good person, and I appreciate her. And honestly, to this day, I think if I wasn't in uniform for this service organization, she probably would have just kicked me to the dirt too. So I appreciate her. So it sounds like you had some sort of similar.
So it's very similar, and I want to dovetail to what you just said about being dressed to impress, right? Because first impressions are big. Are big, and my recommendation is like I was, you know, I haven't been in my corporate job for over 5 years, so I got rid of a lot of my suits. But I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I dress professionally, because you want to treat it as if it's a job interview.
Exactly.
You know? It's basically an interview of your life if you think about it. You know, so go in there confident. And the way mine was set up, it was weird because I've been in immigration in a long time. I haven't needed to, you know. But right. The way it's set up is they have like these little like bank teller slots, like windows. And
got it.
I was like, okay, how do I know if I'm here, or am I a special person? I get to a room, or if I get in a room, I get the question wrong,
they
are they gonna arrest me? You know what I mean? Like, you think about it as you're waiting, right? Like, our imaginations run wild. I know mine does. I'm like, okay, I need to pass this damn thing, right? So I'm like, there's randomly calling people, like they're calling by their names, and some people go back to the room, and some of them come out, and they walk to their turns, they look disappointed, I'm sure, because they didn't pass, and my heart's breaking for them, like, damn, I know how much that had to cost you, you know? And then some people come back out of the room, and they're like happy, like, yeah, they're gonna send me a letter, and I get to swear in or whatever, so I'm like, oh, let that be me, you know? So, but I ended up getting called to the bank teller window, and I was like, oh shit, like, what's the difference, you know? Like, why am I here and I'm not over there? But anyway, I walked in, and like your lady, my lady was super nice. I mean, before we even got to the official questioning, she was like, oh, how are you? You know, and this is a piece of advice I tell you. If you fill your own application or someone does it for you, make sure you know exactly what you've written or they've written for you, because they know everything and they will ask you off the application, right?
Yep.
So, and like your experience too, like, oh, well, what? I don't know. I've never been to Laos, you know, like I'm still I was born in Thailand in a refugee camp like you. So in my mind, I would have been the same thing. I would have said the same thing, like, oh, but I remember off my green card, it says country of origin, Laos, because that's where my family basically migrated from, even though I wasn't even born there. Still to this very day, have never been back, you know? So I would have thought Thailand, but I was like, okay, this is what I wrote in the application, just remember it, you know? So very similar to yours, but I almost said Thailand, and she would have been like, hold up, wait a minute, you know? I'd be like, what? I'm telling you the truth, though.
Right.
Because they just go off what's in front of them, right?
Yeah.
So, so just like yours, too, I had to, and I will tell you that, so when I go back to saying they know everything that's on the application, they do, because we go, you know, before we go through everything, she goes, so how many kids do you have? So I'm thinking in my mind, how many kids, like, I have given birth to, right? So I'm like, three. And then she goes, so who is so-and-so and so-and-so, which are my 2 stepkids? And I was like, oh, well, how do you know? Like, in my mind, I'm like, how does she know this, right? And I said, oh, those are my stepkids. I go, well, if you count them, I typically have 5. But the way you questioned me was, I thought, like, how many kids I have personally had. She's like, no, that's fair. And she was nice about it, you know? So, I mean, I'm sure she could have been like, stop. Like, you know, like, don't continue, you know?
Please don't do me like Sandra Bullock.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, every little thing, and I don't know why I was nervous, because she was so nice, but you just want to make sure you know everything that's on your application and what they're asking, you know? And if you're not confident, ask them to clarify, because they will. Like, what do you mean by, you know, this question? Or I didn't hear your question. Like, if they ask you a test question and, like, you don't hear it thoroughly, then just ask them to reiterate. Most of them would, you know, be nice. Unlike the guy that was grilled next to you, but, you know, like.
I still hope he's okay, because I still worry about that man. He was getting grilled.
But yeah, so mine, they get to know you. They have your whole file in front of them. Yeah. They have everything in the system, so they know everything about you right as you sit down. You know, don't assume like you can't keep anything from them. You know, like they will know like any traffic accidents you know have, or any like parking tickets you might have. Like they're the federal government, man. They have everything, right?
They have it
so
all.
Just be very truthful. And like I don't have. I mean, like she showed me the cool part of it all was that once I finished the test, so she asked me. She prefaced it. She goes, okay. The way this works is I'm going to ask you have to pass 6 out of 10 questions. You're lucky you only got 3. I'm very envious. But 6 out of 10 questions. If you get the first 6 and we don't have to go anymore, you're done with that part. And then she'd ask you, like, she'll say, can you verbalize just repeat after what I said, like who lives in the White House? So, you know, you say it with her, and then you write down on a little tablet that you have in front of you, kind of like how you enter your PIN when you go to the bank, you know? Yeah. So you write down the president lives in the White House. Like you basically just write down what they say. And then once I got back, she's like, okay, that's it. Like you passed. Dang. Which was cool, you know, but like, I'm like racking my brain the whole time. like you like, oh man, please. Oh my God. But the really cool thing is that once I had passed everything, she showed me my file and she's like, this is your file. And I really only had like 3 pieces of paper in it. It was like all my original stuff. And she showed me my original picture of my mom holding me in the immigration camp. I was like 2 months. And I did take a picture of that when I was so sad, but it was like me with specky ass hair, you know, and then the picture of my green card that I posted on my social media. She's like, I have your original picture. So we can't give it to you, but you can certainly take a picture of it. She was like, basically, this is you. You came to America. You've not gotten in any trouble. And, you know, like, this is all we have of you. And I was like, oh, good. Yay. You know, so. Praise the Lord. Like, I don't know, praise Buddha, praise the Lord, praise everything, praise M&Ms, I don't know. Right. Oh my God. But yeah, I had a good experience. I've heard of other people that had other experiences, but everyone's situation is a little bit different. So you gotta kind of just take it for what your situation is. Yeah, I think so too. But I think it doesn't hurt. I think those that don't have the citizenship yet, and you're on the green card, it doesn't hurt to apply. I think the best thing to do is apply. As I remember when I had my green card, again, remember it was like, because green cards are good for like 10 years, and then obviously citizenship's good for life. So it's gonna cost a little bit more, but I think at the time, I don't know why I didn't do it, because I was in 9th grade. The green card prices aren't cheap either. Like, I mean, you know, so you might as well just pay the extra. Yeah, and I don't think, we talked about the importance of like having it too. I don't think I realized how important it was when
you know, I was in college, and I think one of the elections was with Bush and Gore, and I think a lot of my friends in my circle were talking about politics and stuff, and they were just like, well, who are you going to vote for and all this stuff. I was like, I can't like vote, so like it doesn't matter. Like obviously it matters.
Yeah.
If somebody said, well, even if you can't, like you can still like advocate for this way or this way, and I was just like, okay. And I didn't really pay attention to it then. And I think once, you know, I think the next round in 2008, I think when Obama became president and all that, I took it a little bit more seriously because I missed out on my voting that year. And then the next time I moved to Florida, which is 2012. And I remember the first time being able to vote, I was like so excited because like you feel important. You feel like you did something good. So I think obviously in the next election is whatever you want to do. Whatever people want to do is just register to vote. That's just my advice out there because I think it is important to be an active citizen, living here.
I absolutely agree with you. I think you and I, we have very parallel situations as far as when we, coming to America, living our lives, and just like not really, I wouldn't say not understanding, but not really involved in politics until later in life. And I too, like you, I didn't really pay attention to it until Obama started his presidency. I was like, okay, well, there are some changes in here, and that's why I started to take note of stuff, and then realizing it. You like you said, you could be an advocate. Even before I became a citizen, like my mom's ballots would come, my grandma's ballots, and they're like, what do I do? I'm like, okay, well, and I actually, growing up, I'm pretty sure you did a lot of interpretation for your parents and stuff, and like, how do I do this? Yeah. And you explain to them, this is what you do, and this is important. And then they were like, who do you think? I'm like, well, I think, but it's up to you, So, like you said, it's very important to, if you want your voice to be heard, if you want some change, it goes back to that saying, it's like, you could whine and gripe about things, but if you're not going to do anything to make that change, it's kind of pointless, right? So here's our opportunity to be like, okay, I don't like how this is being handled, or I do like how this is being handled, and this is who I want to support. And like I said, like you said earlier too, is whoever you choose to vote for, that's absolutely your prerogative. Like there's no right, there's no wrong. It's how you feel about things, but please do register to vote and vote. It's very important because it does make a difference in our lives, the lives of our children and the future. Like you don't realize it, but a lot of policies have changed with new presidencies, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but if you're not part of it, then you really don't have the room to gripe about it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Be heard.
Kind of almost out of time, but I just want to say thank you for just coming on and just chatting about your experience, because I really think a lot of us, and also as a first non-Khmer, like Lao or Laotian?
Lao.
Yeah.
Am I really the first non-Khmer?
I think so. No, wait. Aside from Derek.
Man, you got me all excited.
I know, but as far as Asian, that's non-Khmer. Yeah.
Oh, hey!
First Lao.
Love my Khmer people too, okay?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, like, growing up too. I mean, this is a weird way to close it out, but I remember my cousins, they lived in like this big, like, project housing in Lowell growing up, and I didn't know, like, what Lao was, like, growing up, and so she'd be like, oh, that's Lucky, like, he's Lao, and I was like, what is that? And I was just like, he looks Cambodian to me. And so he's like us, but he's Lao. And I was like, okay. And
what does that mean?
I don't know. But we were like 8 to 7 years old. Like, I don't know. And so just kind of like that first, experience, like meeting somebody that kind of like, remember, I also grew up in New Hampshire. So my whole world was like just very confusing. Because like only Cambodian family around.
Am I in New Hampshire?
Right, a bunch of white people. And I was like, I don't get it. Like, what is it?
Well, I used to always get like, it'd always be like, oh, where's Laos? I'm like, Thailand? Like, oh, okay. Like, or what's like, what ocean? Like, never mind. Try my food is bomb.
I know. No, love Lao food. I think the best Lao food is like you guys' papaya salad is like just so unique. And I don't know what you guys use, but I've had like both Khmer and Lao, and I swear by Lao papaya salad. I'm
Oh,
probably gonna
we
get a
put
bunch
the
of
stank.
haters
We
for
put
that,
that
but
stank, the extra stank in it. That's why.
oh my god, that's so true. That's so true. It's like the extra salty or salted
The
crab,
crabs,
maybe?
yeah, the crab.
Yep,
Because I
that
have
makes sense.
my sister-in-law's Khmer too, and she always, when she makes papaya salad, she always goes, "Nobody eats mine, they'll eat yours." I'm like, "Because you need extra steak." And I love her. Oh my gosh, she makes some of the best. Like, like there's certain Khmer dishes that I love, but I don't know what they're called. I just grew up eating them, and I'll be like, "Hey sis, you know the one with like the red chili peppers that you soak in like beet and stuff?" She's like, "Oh yeah, with the cucumbers." And once she's like, "Okay, I'll make you some." I'm like, "Oh my god, I love you." So,
Oh my god, that sounds so amazing right now. Jeez.
comfort food. It's comfort food, So.
Well,
But
give me
yeah,
back
thanks
your
for
time.
having me on. I
Yes.
had just the experience. So, like you said, if you're in a position to do so, it doesn't hurt to try and get your citizenship, because there's so many more opportunities for you as a citizen. I feel it's just like a good kind of weight off your shoulders to have to worry about stuff.
It is.
So
it is. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope to have you back again soon. I enjoyed speaking with you.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure out another fun topic. But I'll give you back your time at the beach. So
thank you.
I see
With
the sun is beaming down.
the sun's like coming. Look. Whoa.
Whoa.
Matrix stuff.
All right.
Have a good
Bye.
one. Bye, Lena.